1,652. Make sure that I did everything right because it's been a crazy day. A good day, just very full. Okay, let's see if everything is working. And okay, so justice is in the air. It's been 1,652 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. We have the red security seal on the building, the basement room where he lived on Fort Bliss. We believe that is the crime scene, and that his remains were moved and dismembered, and partial remains were brought over the border into Mexico. Is that possible? 100%, because we have identified that there are individuals, many of them, that could make this happen because of the compromise and corruption within certain agencies. Just like the FBI with Jesus Eddie Nieto, married to Cynthia Hernandez in the intelligence there. Well, the intelligence section that will review everybody's file, in order to get the security clearances, they go through that office and have to be scrutinized. So that kind of access for Nieto's wife is huge, is really huge. And we know that he's a dirty agent, right? So she has this amazing access, and she's married to a dirty agent, right? That put our whistleblower in real danger by leaking the whistleblower complaint to who the whistleblower complaint identified as prime suspects in the murder of the U.S. Army whistleblower soldier, Fort Bliss, that was reporting criminal trafficking and murdered, and that is Leilani Hart and CID Tavita Nusa. And we have, that for the leak to be given to the people that were identified to put a whistleblower in danger in a case where a whistleblower was murdered in the line of duty, just kind of think about that. And our whistleblower is a judicial officer, and Richard is a U.S. Army soldier. Just think about that. It's just that in itself is so criminal, so criminal. And then his having that conflict of interest where she's working in that kind of intelligence office, that kind of scrutiny over who is going to get security clearances, and then has a conflict of interest with Bradford Bugado, whose father-in-law is Nadal Baim, the FBI, posing as FBI agent, or FBI, he's FBI agent, right? He's agent. He said so, and he was not arrested for it, right? Saying that Richard's remains were that he was dead, that Richard was dead. Shh. It was supposed to be kept a secret. Why is it supposed to be kept a secret, right? That a U.S. Army soldier is dead. Why is that supposed to be a secret? That has to be told to the public, told to the family, and that his remains were found partially, right? he didn't say partially, he said remains were found in Mexico. But because of other evidence that indicates partial remains, like the SEMAFO autopsy report, like the Department of State there that we called up. So all of that evidence indicates partial remains were found. In Mexico, the attempt to make sure that Richard's remains were never found because of the fallout of finding Vanessa Guillen's remains is huge. So this is a very huge case because it's international, because it's such a cover up, because of what Richard was reporting on, and and the cartel being involved in all of this, Richard's unit being involved in this, Richard's unit being connected to the Walmart mass shooting, and the involvement of El Mayo's attorney, Ray Velarde, which all of that evidence led to the Santa Teresa ties to the Santa Teresa International Jetport. So this is the FAA, and then you have the ATF because it involves weapon smuggling. Then you have the drug problem, which is, don't believe us. You can just read the news. It's a huge, huge problem. It's such a big problem that President Trump would put tariffs on a country because it is such a national security threat to have this kind of very, very dangerous substances being brought willy-nilly over the border, and we don't defend ourselves. And you can just have a little bit of that fentanyl. I know that through my husband, physician assistant, super dangerous. And many people have already died. Many people. The numbers are atrocious. I mean, with numbers like that, who needs a war, right? You don't even need to go to war. The war has come through these very toxic substances, drugs that get laced onto other drugs, right? They lace it onto aspirin, they lace it onto Percocet or, whatever. And it can be so lethal. So, and then of course, the human trafficking part of this. And so now we had a huge day, didn't we? We haven't had a Secretary of Defense go to the border in a long time, have we? But it happened today. And with the border czar, Tom Homan. So you had Secretary Pete Hegseth, thank God, with border czar Tom Homan, fly to the epicenter, the door to the United States, the front door to the United States, the epicenter of this trafficking, the problems, and the problems being so big that the threat of tariffs had to be used to get attention, to get action, because we know, as normal people, that they always make these promises. They always say, "Oh, we need change. We need change. It's all about change." And then they lie to us, and it doesn't get done. Well, President Trump has met what he said, and he has a mandate. people believed him and they voted for him. It was too big to rig. And what does that mean? People want to point a finger at President Trump, but the thing is the people mandated it. They wanted these measures made. They wanted these measures made, and they trusted what Trump said that he promised on the campaign, and they voted yes for it. And he says, promises made, promises kept. That's what that means. It's a mandate. And so all of this media to point their finger at President Trump, then they're pointing their finger to the majority because he got the majority vote. The majority of Americans that mandated this to happen, right? They wanted this to happen. And President Trump is delivering very, very quickly. He's delivering what he has promised and he's keeping what he has promised. And he is going to use his skills as a billionaire, world class builder, business deal maker to fulfill the promises that he made to the American people. And it seemed to have a very positive effect because wasn't it just yesterday where he was, being scrutinized for putting on these tariffs? But then now you have Mexico making a good deal with the United States, and the tariffs now are delayed for 30 days to make sure that Mexico also keeps its promises, it's part of the deal, and also Canada, because Canada also, and I can tell you this, because of New York and knowing people in New York and knowing an individual in New York that lost her adult son to trying to take pain medication that uh, was laced with this deadly toxin, and she lost her son. So this is that it needed to be. It was hurting Americans. It was hurting, losing Americans. It was destroying families, and so this needed to be addressed, and through the northern border of Canada and through our southern border with Mexico. And it both of them now have made their 30 days promises, and um, just think about how many lives are going to be saved, right? And so that part of that um, is going to be the the border security, right? Part of that deal is the border security. So the timing, and I want to explain what we, because we do get intelligence, and it's very important for people to understand that when President Trump came in, he had to do things step by step. Even though it went so fast, he didn't do it without a certain order because there is, um, the law that he has to follow. And he has a big group of individuals that want to get him legally. They are scrutinizing everything he does legally. And so he has to absolutely obey the law to keep the promises that he made. And one of those things was to declare an emergency at our southern border. So that is one of the very first things that he did, was to declare an emergency at the southern border. So that legally puts the southern border in a different category. It is an emergency. And then he declared the cartels to be the big T, right? The big horrible T, which I don't think I can say, because then, I get, you know, I don't want to get shadow banned, right? So, and I'm being shadow banned, but I don't want to get more shadow banned. But the big, big, terrible T, um, he declared them in that category, the big T category, the horrible uh, T category. So with that, that also put the whole border, put the whole circumstances in a different legal category. And uh, then he sent soldiers, then he sent troops, he sent the military to the border, active duty military, right? Active, trained, the best of the best to the border. Okay. Now, a lot of Fort Bliss is deploying at this time, a rotation. He didn't stop that rotation. Of course, there might be different missions, but also because for us and the intelligence that we have, there is a very, very bad problem within human resources. Human resources seems to be part of this major problem, really the key to the problem, because they're the ones that determine who is sent to the southern border to Fort Bliss. And in these very important positions. And so, if you have that office corrupted and they are operating for that big T group, right? The big T group to traffic, um, then you're going to put in the friendlies, right? The friendly criminals, the uh, your group, your criminal group. I shouldn't say friendly criminal. They're not. They're just so mean. They're absolutely mean. The mean criminals. The orcs, right? The orcs, and so that is why, at the very beginning of all of this, when we were like, oh no, something happened, and they're like, wait a minute, this kind of cover up is so big. How can this cover up happen? Well, it can happen through HRC with the right people in the right places. And we have absolutely investigated and documented and filed the corruption um, in these very important positions and those that were in those positions, and their wrongdoing and their failings that contributed to not answering to the protection that Richard was asking for in his as a whistleblower, and then the murder, and then the cover up of the murder, and yeah. So it's we have done a lot of work in that. So now we have many of those being deployed, right? Being moved out of there. It might be just their rotation, right? But I don't know. I don't take anything, for granted. Um, I think that when they move people out of there, because President Trump could have absolutely kept people there, right? He's the commander in chief, but he moved them out of there and he sent in other active duty, the best of the best, into that region to secure the border, and also to affect the leadership, and this is my opinion, on Fort Bliss. Because when you have that many amazing troops, amazing military power coming into the zone, right? The front door, the entry to the United States to protect it. And it's kind of the territory of, right now, Curtis Taylor. So Curtis Taylor has now, other leadership there over the troops that were brought in. And um, yeah, I just think it's justice is in the air. Justice is in the air. So if Curtis Taylor, and I can't even call him General, y'all, it's so hard for me to get out because he needs to be stripped from his uniform and his stars. He just needs to be stripped. I'm sorry. It's just so hard for me to imagine him in the uniform. I just can't even imagine him in our beautiful uniform with the stars on. It's just he needs to be stripped. So Curtis Taylor, just a lot of um, his, I want to say, service members that were there. Now you've got a big flip flop, right? They're deployed, and you have um, new people coming in, but under different leadership. It's Yeah, it would be really interesting, right? Thank God we have intelligence and we're getting information back. So, the Secretary of Defense Hegseth goes there after those amazing service members arrive, and that leadership, right? So, just a lot happens, and he even went to the border. He even went to the border. Wow, times have changed. Times have changed, and it's just so glorious to see. It's really glorious to see, because he also gave a press conference to the media. And we all know the media there. And, I have those that were very, very kind. Um, but the media there have been absolutely controlled, very controlled. So to have this thrust upon them that they have to let SECDEF Hegseth say what he wants to say is just amazing. It's just glorious, right? It's just wonderful. And then you have border czar Tom Homan, and knowing that that is the epicenter, and letting it just making the narco politicians understand that they're not fooling around. So it's not just the big T, right? It's not just the big T, it's also the narco politicians. And um, and we also know that that goes to the leadership, especially the four stars, right? The four stars. Same thing. We can't have four stars that are traitors. We just can't have that. And you know, I'll leave it to I was asked about Donna Martin, and I'm like, because she's only a 3 star, but whew, that's she needs to face the full power of the law. Definitely, definitely. Um, so that is really major that has happened. And you might want more little tidbits, but it was one, declaring the emergency, two, designating the cartels, the big T word, three, the change of dynamics there when it comes to the uh, soldiers and the leadership there. And for the visit by the Secretary of Defense and the borders are, he's not alone. Remember, need to go out in two by twos, right? The borders are Tom Homan. And just amazing, amazing day. While the Secretary of State is also making history. So Marco Rubio was the Secretary of State, making history also. So that is, I hope um, that answers a lot of questions about the legality of what is going on. Um, and I forgot to put in that sequence the tariffs, right? Because the tariffs, part of the deal to delay the tariffs was to have, I believe, President Scheinbaum needs to put 10,000 Mexican troops at the border also to get them to do their job. So um, let me tell you, if you are a Mexican family and, in Chihuahua, Mexico, you're a happy person because, um, the days of trafficking, unless you make your money on the trafficking, but who wants to do that? Can you imagine? That life is such a terrible life. So, um, this is really, really good news, not only for the United States, but also for Mexico, because we don't want the big T groups to do their criminal activity that caused so many deaths, so much pain. And of course, we know that a lot of young girls were being taken. We know the hundreds of thousands of children taken and brought in through the border and into Fort Bliss. And now you have all these other new service member and soldiers that have not been targeted like what they were doing one by one as they would come in, target them in through the barracks, right, with these young girls and the drugs and take pictures and compromise them. And then, then they couldn't tell what was going on at the border. No, you have a whole big group of soldiers under different leadership coming in. Um, I think Leilani Hart needs to be arrested, right? I think Leilani Hart needs to be arrested before she tries to spin her webs. But I don't think the webs are really going to work like they used to, this one by one, this, and then I have some I almost forgot to tell you this. But talking about Leilani Hart, Leilani Hart um, put in a sworn confession right when Richard, at the same time period that Richard was murdered. In October 16th, when things were getting a little bit tense, that she also uh, you know, has these documents that um, the allegations against her husband at the VA and all the fraud at the VA. So that is a wowzer. And then on the 26th of October, which, when I saw that date, 26th of October, that's the date that Nadal Bayim walked in the morning into the Dollar General, and we were called in that morning time, um, to the Dollar General, and we got the CCTV footage of this FBI agent doing the thing, um, and we then uh, got the CCTV footage. We did videotape the cashier that had talked with him and got her whole story, and we turned that into the FBI. Well, later that afternoon, there was supposedly a road rage incident with Lalani Hart. Lalani Hart and her friend. And it gets really, we're getting to the bottom of this, but I don't know if Nadal, I told you that this is all connected. So I don't know. Could it be that Nadal got on the phone and go, "Hey, Lalani," or "Hey, whoever in the Hart family, look at what just happened today," or maybe the FBI leaked to her again. I don't know. Um, I don't know why she was in such a rage. But there a road rage incident happened that involved Lalani Hart, and the weird thing about it is that she blamed her husband for sending people out to shoot her, right? To shoot her. Um, yeah. And I so we're just trying to wrap our head. If you know anything about this El Paso Police Department, reported incident about road rage, in regards to Lalani Hart on the 26th of October, 2020, please let me know. Um, that is really. Uh, I tell you, that really gives you an indication of the nervousness. And absolutely remember when I talked to the one soldier, he was so nervous, right? Just shaking. They were all shaking. They were all scared. They were all scared. And in the task force 5 Richard Halliday meetings, they were just, and they kept this information from us. They kept the road rage incident from us. That included the mother of Richard's platoon leader. They kept the VA confession from us by the Lalani, the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, and they kept the sworn affidavit, the sworn confession about the worst crimes against children, the worst crimes with videos, the worst crimes with violence, and they kept that, one with another kind of terrible violence in a family against children, and it's just terrible. And they kept that from us, even though Lalani Hart is the mother of Richard's platoon leader. And that is very, very important information. So, and then the leaking, right? The leaking. We absolutely confronted them about the leaking, and they did not tell us about Richard's platoon leader's mother, Richard's platoon leader, and his whole connection with all of this. So I think that is very important information. The other information that we received was that James Hart, Tavita Nusa, I believe Dallas Hart, Lalani Hart, David Poche, uh, Delaris, um, and more, and more. They received their benefits through Fort Bliss, through the Fort Bliss Veterans Administration. And that is also very abnormal, a very telltale sign, and very important information in this case, um, especially when you have Leilani writing pages, right, about the fraud, the forgery, the taking advantage of the funds that we have allocated, that we have wanted to give to disabled veterans, and then to be taken advantage of like that. That's rotten. It's kind of like this whole thing with the U.S. aid, right? That was operating, and we have also intelligence that U.S. aid was operating on its own to be up to no good in the foreign countries. And in this case, in Mexico, putting relations at risk when delegations or uh, those that had the rightful authority to go and discuss with other like officials, and the U.S. aid would intervene and would try to prevent that. So they were really up to no good, and we have you know, ample evidence to corroborate that they were up to no good, and that they would be up to no good because they had purse strings, they had money, and they could bribe and pay off and whatnot to get their way. And this is taxpayers' money, and they could do it without these negotiations from the State Department. And it was just all wrong. It was just all wrong. It was all crazy. And so now that has been uh, at least transparency is set in, and it's a pretty big controversy right now in politics. So we'll see, because when you're getting tons of money to as not for the rightful purposes, but to set forth a political agenda, that it's all wrong, especially if it's not what the people voted for. But it's all wrong. It's all wrong. They have to go through the State Department, from those that were voted, that were duly elected, right? From that group, that's where that needs to come from. You're talking about legality of things. Um, so I hope I answered your questions. I've been getting lots of questions, and it's very early. Of course, we're at 1 o'clock in the morning, but today was, the 3rd of February was a very full day, and you know, um, we need to have patience to see what came out of it. Did they meet with the military? Yes. Fort Bliss? Yes. Did they uh, give a very powerful um, agenda? Absolutely. Absolutely. It was huge. So, so thank you. And tomorrow, come back on, and we'll have more information for you about what happened today. And our goal is to get Richard's remains, and that's not just like so easy thing, especially when the reports are that he was cut asunder, he was dismembered, and that it's just a terrible, terrible thing. And not just buried in one location. This happened also to Vanessa Guillen, God rest her soul. Um, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. Uh, yeah, this happened to her also, but she was buried in one grave, and it was found. Thank you. It was found, and So now with Richards, it's more complicated because he was the fallout victim. He was the fallout of that, and and of course, Fort Bliss is the gateway. It's the front door of all this trafficking, and so they really wanted to make it near impossible to get his remains, but his remains were found, and multiple individuals. So yeah, that's our goal, is to get what his remains. And so if anyone can get them for us, um, it will be this administration, this mandate. And we're very grateful to everybody for uh, for that for that. So I think we just need to continue to work towards that, and yeah, to pray is to work, and to work is to pray, right? So we're going to be working, and we're going to be praying that we get our son's remains. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.